Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Today is the third day of our literature unit.
Yes, indeed.
For the month of July. We've been happy having you with us talking about our featured novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles, by the English writer Thomas Hardy.
I might have to pick up another copy of this and reread it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good book. So if you're thinking about, picking up an English novel to help push your English along, so you progress a little bit, this is one you should try. I think it's something that most of our listeners could do a pretty good job with. And there are words in there that are new for you that you could look up too. So what are we doing today? As we always do, we're going to talk about themes in this book. What do you think the author was trying to communicate with this? I also wanted to mention one more time that there is a film that was made in 1979 that was nominated for 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, which is pretty cool, that you might want to check into. See if you can get a copy of that to watch along as you maybe read and watch the movie together. I don't know.
I think it's always best to keep those separate.
Yeah.
Reading and listening at the same time.
I would read first. Maybe watch the film first so you can picture, those faces in your mind. I don't know.
Kind of depends on how much you can understand. But in any case here, we're going to talk about some of the themes and ideas in Tess of the D'Urbervilles in today's program. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now. Tess of the D'Urbervilles deals with several issues that were rarely discussed during the Victorian era. One is the injustice in society at the time. Throughout her short, tragic life, Tess is punished by society time and time again. She feels guilt and shame when her family's horse is killed in an accident and when she is raped by Alec, although she has done nothing wrong in either case. Hardy also discusses hypocrisy and Christianity. Although many of the characters, such as Alec, preach about religious morality, they behave immorally. This is true of Angel, too, whose name does not reflect his character. The novel also explores the changes in social classes that Victorian England was undergoing. Dividing people into social categories was no longer simple. For example, the D'Urbervilles were an esteemed family during the Middle Ages due to their bloodline, yet in the Victorian era, money has become more important when it comes to determining one's place in society. The changing nature of social classes is also demonstrated by Tess's relationships with Angel and Alec. Born into a poor farming family, she briefly enters the world of solid respectability with Angel and luxurious wealth with Alec. Another key theme is men using their power to dominate the lives of women. A clear example of this is when Alec rapes Tess. He is willing to destroy her life for a moment of pleasure. This theme is also present in Angel and Tess's relationship. Although Angel loves Tess, he only wants to see her as a pure, simple country girl. His refusal to accept her past causes him to abandon her, which leads to the novel's tragic ending.
Okay, guys, let's talk about Tess of the D'Urbervilles and some of the issues that you find within this novel. It says here that it deals with several issues, problems that were rarely discussed during the Victorian era. These things happened. Don't think that there weren't people being raped and people being killed and folks or girls having babies out of wedlock. Those things were happening. You just didn't talk about it. It was considered taboo, as Tom said earlier. So here we're using this word issues. When you see issue, especially when you're talking about this sort of thing, it usually is a topic that is being debated or discussed. And here you could also just switch it out for problems. So these were some of the issues that weren't considered to be proper in terms of discussing in, society. You just were kind of quiet about these things.
Yep, they were going on, but you just didn't talk about them. One is the injustice in society at the time. Now, injustice means there is no justice. The evil or bad people are not punished. They get away with things. That's injustice. If somebody kills your mother, for example, and they get away with it, they escape, the police actually help them escape, that's an injustice. You feel that justice has not been served. It's not fair. So, yes, at the time there was a lot of injustice. If you had connections or whatever, you could get away with a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Some of the royalty, I mean, they could rape and kill and not even be charged with a crime because they were considered above the law. Actually, that still happens these days.
Sure.
If you have power and money, you can get away with things that other people can't. Darn it, it's not right. And that's what we call injustice, when things aren't fair between different levels of society, the high class and the low class. So throughout her short, tragic, very sad life, Tess is punished by society time and time again. We use this phrase time and time again when something happens over and over and over. So if you haven't seen this before, take a good look at this phrase. We use it quite frequently, either in writing or speaking. She feels shame when things happen in her life that really aren't her fault. She doesn't cause these things. For example, one is when her family's horse is killed in an accident, and also when she's raped by Alec. That's certainly not her fault. She hasn't done anything wrong in either of those situations, but society punishes her for those things.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the horse being killed, but that did happen. It was an accident. And of course, if the horse died, the family suffered because it was a poor farming family. Without the horse, they couldn't make more money that way. So she felt very guilty about that. And as you said, of course, she was raped by... Who raped her?
Alec did, yeah. Alec was a bad, bad guy. And later on, he gets what's coming to him when she goes crazy, kind of mad at the end and kills him. Poor thing. If you read the book, you're kind of always on Tessa's side. Things that aren't fair seem to keep happening to her. And, she gets punished for things that aren't her fault. So let's move on to the next paragraph here. It says, Hardy also discusses something we call hypocrisy and Christianity, both. Hypocrisy. When someone says, we should always treat women well, but then you find out this guy, beats up women in his private life. We just had a story like this come out a couple of months ago in America. Guy who works in law, so he has the ability to charge people with crimes. And we find out he's been beating up women in his private life. That's hypocrisy, when you say one thing and your actions are just the opposite.
Right, or if you tell other people that they shouldn't smoke or drink, but then you go out with your friends on the weekend and smoke tons of cigarettes and drink lots of beer and stuff like that. So that is hypocrisy. That's the noun. A person who practices hypocrisy is a hypocrite. You can call someone that, you're such a hypocrite. You do things that you tell other people not to do. You are a hypocrite. So this book here discusses hypocrisy. Also, it discusses Christianity, which, of course, at the time was the prevalent religion in England. Although many of the characters, such as Alec, preach about religious morality, they behave immorally. So, of course, if you are religious and you're trying to convince other people to believe in your religion, you preach to them. You might go to a sermon or something and listen to the pastor preach about heaven and hell and stuff like that. So here people will preach about religious morality, like Alex here. He talks about morality, which means doing the right thing in a religious way, at least according to religion. So that's religious. You could describe people as being religious. Don't say four-letter words around them because they are religious. They will be offended. So he preaches about religious morality. This is the way you should behave according to God, according to Jesus and stuff like that. But they still behave immorally. So I guess they break some of those 10 commandments.
Well, and I didn't like Angel either. he grew up in this religious family. His dad's a parson. He knows, how he should act if he's a Christian. And yet when he finds out about Tess's past, which isn't her fault at all, he rejects her and he goes off to Brazil, probably, to have a lot of affairs with loose women in Brazil. Who knows? So, Angel was anything but an angel. He wasn't acting like his name at all. If he'd really been a good Christian, he would have listened to what happened to Tess and had sympathy for her and felt badly for her that she had to suffer so much because she'd been raped by that creep, Alec. So, we find out there's a lot of hypocrisy going on, and especially people who are supposed to be religious and good Christians aren't. So let's move on to the next paragraph. Before we take a break, we're going to do a couple more terms here. It says the novel also explores the changes in social classes that Victorian England was undergoing. It was at this point in time during the Industrial Revolution. It was just about ready to take off, where it would change life for people in England who really, the English before this period, if you were born poor, you stayed poor forever. If you were born rich, you were rich forever. So there was no way to actually move from one lower class to a higher class. That's why people were going to America, guys, because we didn't have royalty. And if you worked hard and you were smart, you could earn a lot of money and become rich.
Indeed. So it explores these changes. To explore in this particular sense does not mean you're going to some land far away to learn more about it. In this particular case, it means it discusses in detail the changes that were going on in those social classes in Victorian England. Those changes were undergoing. They were happening at that time. Changes were happening. And fortunately, well, I guess you could argue, have they changed for the better or for the worse? I guess that's up for you to decide, but I guess nowadays England is not at all like it was during Victorian times. Things have changed big time. Okay, that brings us to the midway point in today's lesson. Let's take a little bit of a break now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，欢迎收听 English Digest， 我是哈利。今天我们要阅读的文章是 Unit 14文学单元的第3天课程。在今天的文章中，我们将会阅读到黛丝姑娘的作者 Thomas Hardy 想要借由这本小说来探讨的一些主题。文章的第一段提到，小说想要传达的第一个主题就是维多利亚时代社会里的 injustice 不公不义。例如黛丝并没有做错什么，却要遭受很多不公平的对待。我们看到第一段的最后一句 She feels guilt and shame when her family's horse is killed in an accident.And when she's raped by Alec, although she has done nothing wrong in either case, 她家的马在一场事故中死亡，以及她被亚历克强暴的时候，尽管在这两个例子中她都没做错事，她还是感到内疚和羞愧。名词 guilt 是罪恶感、内疚的意思。A sense of guilt 就是指罪恶感。例如 Tom felt a sense of guilt when he lied to his wife.汤姆对妻子撒谎时感到有罪恶感。Guilt 的形容词是 guilty, G-U-I-L-T-Y， 意思是有罪的、内疚的。后面如果接介系词 of， 表示犯了某罪。例如 The politician was found guilty of bribery， 这位政治人物犯了收贿的罪。如果接介系词 about， 则表示对某事感到内疚。例如I feel really guilty about forgetting your birthday. 我对于忘记你的生日感到内疚。我们再回过头看一下这一句的后半部分。当形容词搭配 nothing, everything, anything 或是 something 这些名词时，形容词要放在这些名词的后面，而不是前面。例如 There is nothing special about this movie. 这部电影没有什么特别之处。Jane felt embarrassed because she had done something stupid. 珍觉得尴尬，因为她做了件蠢事。我们接着看到文章第二段的第一句 Hardy also discusses hypocrisy and Christianity. 哈代也阐述虚伪及基督教。名詞 hypocrisy 是指 behavior in which someone claims to have certain moral principles or beliefs, but behaves in a way that shows they are not sincere. 也就是伪善、虚伪的意思。这个字的形容词就是 hypocritical, H-Y-P-O-C-R-I-T-I-C-A-L。 例如 It was hypocritical of Mary to get upset at Tony for being late, when she rarely shows up on time herself。 玛丽对于汤尼的迟到感到不悦，但她自己也很少准时出现，真是虚伪。另外 hypocrite, H-Y-P-O-C-R-I-T-E， 这个字是名词，伪善者、伪君子的意思。 Mark is such a hypocrite.He always says he cares about the poor, but has never done anything to help them. 马克真是个伪君子，他总是说他关心穷人，但却未做任何事来帮助他们。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about some of the themes and ideas that the author Thomas Hardy was trying to communicate in our book, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. We talked about how there's a lot of injustice that you see in society at that time and throughout her life, which was really quite tragic, very sad. Things happened to Tess that really weren't her fault, but she was blamed for those things. We didn't talk about the horse that was killed in her family, but somehow she was blamed for that. And when she was raped by Alec, she was blamed for that as well. And it just doesn't seem fair. We also talked briefly about hypocrisy. Saying one thing and doing another is hypocritical. That's the adjective form of this word, hypocrisy. And Christianity is just the teachings of Jesus Christ and whether they're followed by those who profess or say they're Christians. Alec loved to talk about religion and morality, and he was a creep. He raped her. So, yeah, he's the last person that should be talking about religion. And then there was Angel, who, once he found out about Tessa's background, he just dropped her like a hot potato, and he ran to Brazil, where there were a lot of loose girls he could hang out with.
I've known women with the name Angel or Angela, but never a man, so this is kind of unusual here. Angel is a man, and he's very immoral, even though he's got kind of an angelic name, if you could say that.
Yeah.
Well, the novel also explores the changes in social classes. We were talking about that. It talks about it. Dividing people into social categories was no longer simple. So we've got these social categories, laborers, merchants, aristocracy. Those are different kinds of classes. But at this time, dividing people into those classes or dividing them into these categories wasn't so simple anymore. So here the verb phrase is to divide something into something else. We often use that construction when we talk about division. Let's say like 10 divided by 5 equals 2. You can divide 5 into 10 2 times, for example. So here we're dividing them into social categories. We're basically making different categories, or we're describing different categories.
You can also just look at your classroom at school and say, okay, we're going to divide our classroom into 3 teams. So you can divide lots of stuff into other things.
Or you could divide a pizza into different pieces. Last time I ordered a pizza, I asked them to divide it into 4 pieces because I didn't think I could actually eat 6 pieces. That was too much.
Oh, anyway, we're talking about the class system. There were huge class systems in England at this point. For example, why was it hard to just categorize things and people, groups of people? For one thing, here's an example. The D'Urbervilles were an esteemed family during the Middle Ages due to their bloodline. They were considered to be very cool And it sounds like a poor name to me, but back in the Middle Ages, which is like 1100 to 1400, those were the Middle Ages. It wasn't a great time in history in England, for sure. According to your bloodline, of course, is your whole family tree. You know, nowadays we talk about our family trees, who your ancestors were and who came after you. So they were considered to be an esteemed family and a family that people looked up to. They were admired. Yet, by the time the Victorian era had rolled around, money had become much more important than it had been in the past. So by the time you get to the Victorian era, it's not so much your bloodline, you know, who your ancestors were. Now we're going to look at how much money you have. This is more of a transformation into a modern society because nowadays, if you have money, we're not so concerned about who your family is and where you came from. If you were related to really, you know, royal people, if you have royal blood, we don't care. Now we're looking at how much money you have.
How much money you have, and it doesn't really matter how you got that money as long as you have it. That seems to be the morals nowadays. But in any case here, yes, money has become more important when it comes to determining one's place in society. When we talk about determining your place, to determine just means to sort of find out what the case of something is. You firmly make a decision about something. You determine your place in society. And to continue here, the changing nature of social classes is also demonstrated by Tessa's relationships with Angel and Alec. So this is the changing nature of social classes, basically how these classes interact with each other. Those were changing as well. It's shown or demonstrated by Tessa's relationships with these two guys, Angel and Alec.
Yeah, and they were a little different. Angel's family wasn't wealthy, but they were highly respected. That was a career that you could go into if you didn't have royal blood. You could go in and study to be a minister, and then you made a pretty good living. It was definitely more middle class, and you were respected by society. And then there was Alec. His family had wealth, luxurious wealth. Luxurious is a word we use to describe when something's quite fancy. I remember when I first got to stay in the Ritz Hotel, I remember thinking, wow, this is such a luxurious hotel. Lots of high-class, expensive decorations, and just everything was really first class, very expensive, luxurious. Now, another key theme that you find in the book is men using their power to dominate or control the lives of women. That was definitely true back then, and it's becoming better and better over time. But back then, women had no power at all.
Unless you were Queen Victoria.
Yeah, unless you were born
that
born
was the
queen.
Exception, you know. The exception and not the rule.
And then people probably were trying to kill you because you're queen. So
true.
It's tough, yeah.
So this is a theme or idea, subject, an issue. Men using their power to control or dominate the lives of women. And a clear example of this is when Alec rapes Tess. He can do that. He can get away with it. Nothing bad really happens to him. But Tess, of course, is affected. She gets pregnant. She's rejected by society. He's the one who did something wrong to her, and she's the one who has to suffer. That doesn't seem to be justice. Now,
no.
And he is willing to destroy her life for a moment of pleasure. Yes, you can destroy someone's entire life just to have fun for a couple of seconds. So destroy just means to totally wreck something, to totally get rid of something, to change it from its original controlled state or its original ideal state and just totally wreck it.
Yeah. Oh, horrible. This theme is also present in Angel and Tessa's relationship. Although Angel does love Tess, he only wants to see her as this pure, simple country girl. You know, he wanted to feel like he'd married this most pure girl. For me, Tom, she still is pure. She didn't ask to be raped. It wasn't something she asked to go through. And he's judging her and condemning her for somebody else's actions, Alex. So his refusal to accept her past causes him to abandon her, which leads to the novel's tragic ending. When you refuse something, you say no to it, right? So refusal is the noun form. I refuse to pay that much for that car. I mean, that's crazy. Some people will spend a fortune on a car. I refuse to pay that much for a car. My refusal to pay a lot of money for a car means that I get to spend my money on other things. So refusal is how we're describing what Angel did with her. He refused to accept her past, and then he abandoned her. If you abandon someone, you leave them behind. Often when you go on a long drive, you'll see abandoned cars along the road sometimes that have broken down, and the owners just leave them there and then they take off. That's an abandoned car.
Happens sometimes. You do see abandoned bicycles and abandoned motorcycles quite frequently.
And abandoned animals.
Indeed, abandoned animals. People just let them go because they don't want to care for them anymore, and they become stray animals.
So sad.
But that leads to the tragic ending of the novel. Remember, Tess was executed at the end for murder. But, hey, we can't really blame her. Unfortunately, back then, she could not plead insanity and maybe go to see a psychologist for a number of years, psychiatrist or whatever. So, yes, this does have a tragic ending. We shouldn't have given away the ending there, but what the heck, you could try to read it anyway. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion. Let's hear now from our Chinese teacher.
文章的第3段提到小说所要探讨的另一个主题，就是在维多利亚时代，社会阶级不再能如此清楚的划分，阶级是会流动的。我们看到这一段的最后一句 Born into a poor farming family, she briefly enters the world of solid respectability with Angel and luxurious wealth with Alec. 生在一个贫穷的农家，她用短暂的时间与安杰相携安稳进入体面的世界，也与亚历克一同踏入奢华财富的世界。本句一开始以过去分词 born 开头，这是分词构句。原来的2个句子是 She was born into a poor farming family 和She briefly enters the world of 这一句，因为2句主词都是 she， 第一句的 she 可以省略，后面的 was 变成 being， 而 being 又可以省略，只留下表被动的过去分词 born， 然后2句只用逗号连接，就形成了表被动语态的分词构句。文章的最后一段提到小说的另一个重要主题，就是男性用他们的力量支配女性的人生。我们看到这一段的最后一句 His refusal to accept her past causes him to abandon her, which leads to the novel's tragic ending. 他拒绝接受她的过去，导致她离弃他，这也招致这本小说的悲惨结局。不晓得大家有没有觉得很奇怪 which 前面是 her， 为何关代是用 which 而不是用 who 呢？在这边 which 的先行词并不是 her，而是前面的一完整句子。当关系代名词代替前面一完整句子，也就是一件事时，关代用 which， 而且 which 前面要加逗号。例如 Leo failed an important test, 逗号 which made his father angry. 李欧有个重要考试不及格，这让他爸爸很生气。这句的 which 前面要加逗号，代表李欧考试不及格这件事让爸爸生气。如果不加逗号的话，就会变成这个重要的考试让爸爸生气，文意就不对了。以上就是今天的课程，谢谢大家收听。
That's it for today. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our discussion of our featured novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Maybe you ought to check it out yourself. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.